Taylor Swift, the well-known female music artist, is single-handedly driving economic growth. Some are referring to this as Swiftonomics. I'm joined by Dean Cook, who's not only a portfolio manager in Aviva Investors, he is also a resident music expert and enthusiast. So no better person to talk about this. Dean, you flagged to me that it's not just about the economics. There are some other really interesting things worth mentioning with regard to Taylor. Um, so let's get straight into it. I mean, what are the things you want to talk about?
Thanks, Shane. So, yeah, let's cover the economics in just a moment. I think there's something to mention following on from our chat about music royalties recently. And I think we should also be talking about Taylor's ESG credentials as well.
Okay, a lot to get through. Let's start with the economics. Her tour is absolutely huge. There's been recent dates announced for Ireland and the UK. They sold out immediately, but the headlines are about the economics. Why?
So the Eras Tour is massive. There's 146 dates across 5 continents. And I know I failed to get tickets. I'm sure you did as well, Shane. It's causing people to spend money. They're traveling, they're buying hotel rooms, they're dressing up, they're sort of buying merchandise as well. And in fact, between her and Beyonce, Bloomberg Economics estimates that they've added $5.4 billion to US GDP, which is just enormous. In the US, the concerts have seen hotel occupancy get back to pre-pandemic levels, which is very impressive considering where we've been. And that affected places like Colorado, Chicago, Vegas. And it's not just a US phenomenon. If you look over in Sweden, they saw a spike in inflation, also thanks to hotel prices caused by people attending the Taylor Swift gigs.
Wow. Okay, so the economics are strong and are real. And we talked about music royalties before, and this part I think is really interesting to me. So Taylor has done something pretty unique with regard to music royalties. Can you explain what exactly she's done?
Yeah, sure. So I guess first up, it's worthwhile pointing out the importance of the owners of music royalties having a really strong relationship with the artists, because Taylor didn't. And effectively, her old record label owned the masters to her first few albums. They weren't making it very easy for her to use her music in the way that Taylor wanted. And actually, they resold those music rights without her permission. So, in order to gain complete control, Taylor decided to re record all of those albums. Now, if this were anyone else, they might struggle to generate enough interest behind effectively the same album being re-released. But I think because the support of her fan base, the struggle that she was effectively going through in trying to gain independence from the corporations who owned her music rights previously, they all got behind her, and you've seen sort of very strong record sales off the back of those re-recorded albums.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. I mean, it sounds like such a simple solution to a complex problem, but I love it. Okay, finally, you mentioned ESG considerations.
Yeah, so I think if we run this in reverse order, let's start with G. So governance, kind of covered by the music royalties point which we've just made. It's important that as a musician and effectively a brand, that she has control over her assets, and she seems to do a really good job of making sure that her company's looked after. So S is for social, and through the US leg of the Eras tour, we heard how much she believes in making sure her people are paid correctly. She paid $55 million in bonuses, of which some of those went to her truck drivers, and they reportedly got $100,000 bonuses, which is a really meaningful amount of money. She's been able to make a film of her tour, so you know that the US film industry is more or less on strike at the moment. But by meeting the labor union's demands, i.e., paying them what they wanted and making sure they had good working conditions, Taylor's been able to put out a film that'll probably make it into the top 5 releases of this year. The E, maybe that's slightly less good. So the carbon impact of touring, as you can imagine, is very large. You've got the trucks to move around all of the sets and the dancers and the like, and also private jets to get from A to B. So she doesn't score quite so highly on the E, even if the S and G are very good.
Yeah, I agreed. I've looked at there's a kind of a list you can see of artists globally on their carbon footprint, and unfortunately, she's quite high up at the moment, given the big tour. But as you say, some of the other things are so impressive. Some of the workers' rights and whatnot. So if you put all this together, Dean, so it sounds like number one, financials extremely strong. Number two, legally, she seems to be on top of things. She knows her rights and knows how to control the franchise. And then finally, ESG credentials pretty solid. So I mean, if Taylor were a stock, would you be investing?
Well, Shane, you know that depends on the valuation.
I do indeed. I do indeed. It doesn't make the answer any less boring, though. Um, so, Dean, the last time we spoke and we recorded the last recording on music rights, I did ask if you would take the guitar off the wall in the background and sing us out with a song. I got lots of people contacting me after this who were also very interested in hearing Dean play a song. Again, I've asked you today if you'd play us out with a little bit of Shake It Off. You've again politely declined, but I'm hopeful that for the Christmas special, we usually do something kind of different at Christmas. And I'm hopeful that between now and mid-December, I'm going to be able to convince you to indeed take the guitar off the wall and sing us out with a song. So stay tuned for that. Watch out for the Christmas special. We will be back next week. We will be joined by a portfolio manager. We'll put them on the spot, ask the difficult questions. Until then, take care.